traveller, if your feet or oars ever steer you to the Adriatic Sea, you will find on its northernmost reach a wondrous peninsula brimming with rich history and magical lore. Throughout history, it was defended by ancient hill forts that clung to its rocks. Its oak forests hid beneath their heels a thrice-colored earth that raised generations who built and developed the land. At the tip of the peninsula, beneath the high rocky grounds of Chicharia, spreads white Istria. It takes its name from the color of the bare limestone that stretches like a wall as far as Mount Uchka, forming a mighty mountain range in the north, a bulwark that separates the peninsula from the mainland. Encircled by swirling clouds, snowbound and windswept, it guards secrets that only the bravest of the brave will know. The central part of this half-isle is grey Istria, whose soil is rich in clay that gives its characteristic hue. Being non-porous, it holds water and creates the principal Istrian rivers and creeks that carve out valleys and canyons, forming wonderful, mysterious landscapes in the local lore, a home of fairies and giants, witches and werewolves. Finally, at the southern Istrian upland, and in the coastal region, the terrain descends to form wide plains, wedged between maritime rocks and limestone cracks. There we find a layer of red earth, the wide red Istria. Numerous limestone caves, sinkholes and chasms hide mysteries and mysterious creatures. And when the moon is shining and the wind has dropped, you may come across some of them as they peek from pits and holes beneath your feet. A hardy traveller journeying between the ancient hill forts. Maybe in silence, on the wayside, or perhaps beneath an oak, you will glimpse a serene stranger. It may be a fairy, or even a shadow. Maybe it's an old man's whisper. It evokes memories and silent images of magical Istria. Kozlak is first mentioned in the early 12th century. Today's remains were built on the site of an ancient Istrian hill fort. The impenetrable rocky furrow on the slope of Mount Uchka could only be approached by climbing the steep stony stairs that rose up the natural massive wall that today still dominates the valley. The town lived throughout the turbulent history and changed hands, from the Uskoks who plundered the nearby Venetian forts to the religious reformers who were hunted by the Inquisition. However, in the forgotten city, you may find that some stone houses among the rubble and ruins are still inhabited. When on Uchka slopes you hear a bleating that sounds like a chuckle under moonlight, it may be that a swargling is sneering at you. These are tiny impish creatures, minute as mogmugs, yet they will viciously play tricks on you. Tiny, hairy creatures, they are shaggy as sheep, bouncy as frogs, and bleat like billy goats. Each sports a pair of horns on its head. They relish biting shepherds' fingers, stealing their cheese, and chasing away their sheep. And if the swarglings bleat by a dry stone wall at night, the shepherds will call mogmugs for help. As soon as a mogmug jumps from behind its rock, the little imps will scatter away as if blown by the wind. Once, the swarglings stole a veil from a mighty fairy of Uchka and hid it among the rocks. The power of these mountain fairies resides in their scarf, and without it, they cannot fly anymore, calm the storms over the mountain, or even survive when the sun shines on them in the morning. On rocky ground, the poor fairy wandered, lost and barefoot, until she stumbled upon a young shepherd. Then, awash with tears, she pleaded with the honest herdsman to take her to her mother before dawn, for only she could save her and restore her powers through making her a new scarf. The youth placed her on his back and began to climb in haste as the fairy guided him to the fairy court. Swaglings giggled from their hiding places as the poor lad hopped from over holes, and they rushed under his feet around his ankles to trip him up. Yet when he reached the fairy court, the swaglings scattered as the fairy mother rose from the rocks. She thanked the young man for rescuing her daughter and rewarded him with a gift of strength that would serve him only when used to do good. Ever since then, the young shepherd could raise great rocks as if they were light as feathers and lift and replant oak trees like they were turnips. Yet few believed him when he told them how he got his strength. The mightiest of all mountain fairies were those from Uchka, and the people remembered them as fairy builders. At night, they would take wing on the moonlit wind, their robes lifting the heaviest rocks as easily as they were feathers. They swooped from the mountain top all the way down to Pula, where they built all night to raise Divichgrad, as the ancient folk called it, for the old Slavic word for wonder is Divich. Stone after stone, row after row, they erected, and in a single night arose an extraordinary circular edifice that is known today as the Arena of Pula. Yet, with the rooster's first morning call, the power of the mighty spirits began to droop like the wind, and they made haste to fly high up into the skies back to Mount Uchka. As they rose, the stones became heavier and fell from their fairy robes into the sea. That was the birth of the Brioni Islands. The Arena of Pula remained just as it was built by the fairies in a single night. And to this day, it stands as a silent witness to the might of the fairies of Mount Uchka.